Everyone, welcome to the show. What's this? I don't know. I'll show you what's been going on. Shifter mechanism is all gone. This was just kind of laying down in there, doing Lord knows what, with a whole bunch of other little wires and doodads hanging around with it. So we're just gonna tidy this all up while we're in here, just figure out exactly what's going on. Since we got it open, because we had to take out this to take out this so we could get to where is it? That. So we want to remove the spring tension that's on here because this is causing this whole assembly to want to shoot super far right, which is not helpful with getting this whole thing set up where it needs to be. So we're going to take out that little spring and we are going to see how that affects the placement of this. You can see, look, fancy marker comes in handy again. So this is the reverse bar. So when this is at a 4-speed, this little bar drops into there, right? And then it rides over top of this and acts as like a lockout. So this is kind of like a 4-speed lockout. So let's get this back to where it needs to go. Over the top, get over there. Hold on, bolt that went through there. We zip tied this down, just more to keep it out of the way. The spring is down in there, and what happens now is when you move the shifter, this arm here is the arm that actuates on this lever here. So that throw is going to be the maximum amount of throw out of this, which should work. So now we can position this where it needs to go, where it's sitting about halfway in the middle. And the way we can make sure it's in the middle is by doing that. So there it is in the middle. We're going to hit this. It's a little stiff everywhere. Thing's 30 years old, so we're going to hit it with some paint. It could really probably use some anti-rust stuff, and then hit it up with some grease or WD-40 down into all of its little nooks and crannies. So we'll hit it with the WD-40, let it dry, hit it with some paint, let it dry, stick it back in the car. While that's all going on, we're gonna go back to working on the transmission over there. That's not a product placement. That actually tastes like butthole. So we'll go drink, or we'll go work on some of that. While we wait for the stuff to dry, what we're actually gonna do is, since we have this out, and the weather is nice, we're going to attempt to fix this using a bit of duct tape and some Bondo. So we're going to take the broken bits up here, we're going to Bondo, or we're going to duct tape it together so it retains its shape, and then we're going to hit it with some Bondo, and we're going to kind of try and fill in the voids that's going on up here. So this is the part that a lot of the metal bolts into on the car. So it makes it a little difficult to get everything in the car without all this stuff hooked up. The screws that go in here are actually self-tapping, which is why they cause damage when they go in. So kind of a design fault by GM at the time, but they weren't really designed to be taken out, in, out, in, out, in, out. So we're just going to build up some of these damaged areas, and we're going to just try and get everything situated so that we can use this without having to go out and buy a new one of these. They aren't particularly rare, but they are fairly expensive. So let's see. All painted up, picked up a bit of grass from where we painted it on. So this bar here does the tension. This bar up here is the reverse bar, so we don't need this one, but it has a pin that goes through the top of it that works with the cable. The cable on this one is pretty direct. They actually sell an adapter, like a short throw shifter, that basically just shortens up this bit up here. We don't need that. So we got it all kind of mounted up how we want it. So we're going to find the middle ground there. We kind of left it where we wanted it to be, so we'd have a little lineup point. You can see right there. More of that. So what we're going to do is we're going to put it in this position. and hope that it works. All right, so the shifter is back in. It's a fairly simple mechanism. Sorry about the sniffles. I do have a cold, and when I lean forward, I get sniffles. Okay, so the shifter is a fairly simple mechanism. You got the two cables here. It's 4 bolts, lock it in place, back and forth, side to side. So once you get all the stuff up off top of it, it's easy peasy. 4 bolts torqued to, I believe it's good, click, good and tight. And we should be good to go. We kind of took them all down and got them where they need to go. This is hard to do with one hand. Come on, you got it. Click. All right, we got it working. So everything in here works. I'm trying to think of how I'm going to show this to you while I'm doing it. So give me one moment. So we had to get down into here to mess with the clutch because the clutch thing wasn't working. It's kind of hard to see down in here, but we got a special little clutch system on here because the normal one wouldn't. My daughter's over there hanging out, playing on her bicycle. So this took some modifying to get this to fit down in there and flare out that nut. So I'll show you what we did there in a second, but right now we're flaring out the nut and the clutch system should work now. But we had to kind of take apart the shift linkage to get in there. So as you can see, the fan is working. That's hooked up to our relay. It comes back here. My concern right now is this is still charging super high, and that freaks me out. So there's that. But our coolant reservoir setup to bleed air out of the system works, so that's remaining full even with the thermostat wide open, so that's working, which is ideal. That's all working. Let me show you. So we got the clutch hooked up. I'll show you that working in a second. One of the things we got to fix is this is backwards, so watch. This is foot in the clutch. Right now, over, reverse. We're going to reverse for some reason. Clutch doesn't fully disengage. We're gonna have to figure out why. But we might need a bigger reservoir. So over and up, we can see it's locking us out. So that's first. So we can at least move a little bit, which is ideal. Not ideal, but we'll make it work. Down here, our clutch isn't leaking, which is good. So that's ideal. We ended up having to weld this on top of here with some booger welds because this was just coming too loose, too easy. It just needed to be slapped down into place. So Ronnie Dickman stuff, even for something that's not built for it, it ended up saving us a bunch of time and a bunch of effort, which is so ideal. So this is all working. We got everything down in here. This can get cut and taken away. We don't need that cable anymore. We ended up having to use a combination of our standard Harbor Freight bit here and this fancy tool. This tool is great. It's actually for refrigeration, but we were able to start a, here I'll show you. It's kind of hard to show, but you crank down on this and that ends up giving you exactly, you know, the part you need. So you crank down and then you go ahead and you use the tool that I've already misplaced, and that works. So that's ideal, and then that works and we're good to go. So this is fun too. So we ended up having to bypass our relay here because it wasn't working. This thing so old and so, you can see in there, it's kind of chowdered up. So that didn't work, but with the relay bypassed, headlights go up, headlights go down. So that works, so we're good with that. So literally the only thing keeping us from being out on the road right now, besides some body panels missing, is we need to figure out if we need a bigger one of these, if it needs to push harder
which I think is what's eventually going to happen is we're going to replace this larger unit from a different model. So we'll see what we got to do there. We already bled it a bunch of times using the Harbor Freight pump that we got set up in here, but it was hard getting a good vacuum seal. Let's see if we can focus in. Yeah, right there.
So this little bit right here is what we want to focus on camera. There we go. So it's hard to get a good vacuum seal on that because of its little nipple. So we're gonna have to go get a different setup going on here. We're gonna try a different vacuum pump before we try and get a different clutch system. But that'll work. And then we're good to go. The thing works. The biggest thing we gotta figure out, so this is where the alternator comes in right here, right? So what we're going to try and do is we're going to try and put a bulb on here because right now it's just got a diode and that might make the signal voltage go down more. So right now everything's working as it should be for the most part. You know, good enough for government work and all that. So this is 13.6 volts inside of there. We're going to see, you know, we want to make sure with our relay bypassed that we don't end up draining this out. So that should be good. If we do end up draining it, we got another relay we can try and work in the system. So we'll see. So that works. Thank you so much for watching my stupid shenanigans. Made a lot of progress this week. So hopefully we continue to work on progress and get it going. This close. I can just feel it. Look at my dirty hands. This close. I can feel it. All right. Do YouTube things.